is the City Council of the City of Lake Jackson meeting Monday, August 15th, 2022, a regular session starting at 6:30 p.m. To 25 Oak Drive, Lake Jackson, Texas. We'll begin the meeting tonight with Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Broadus.
This Monday. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
If you join me in invocation. Heavenly Father, we come to you with grateful hearts. Thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on each of us. Father, we thank you for our first responders, the servicemen and women, and our employees. We ask that you keep them safe. Father, please give this council the wisdom, guidance, and courage to make the best decisions for our community. In your name, we offer up this prayer to you. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we'll move on to next item on the agenda is visitors' comments. This is an opportunity for any visitor in the audience to approach and discuss, bring to council any kind of comments that they have on any item that is not on the consent or regular agenda. So we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak to council. Yes, sir. And please come up and give your state your name and address.
My name is Chuck Cates, C-A-T-E-S,
Yes, sir.
310 Pine Street. I think y'all probably remember me from the last
Right.
meeting we had. While I do appreciate the expedient response that we received from my being here last time, I was here Monday the 1st, I believe, Wednesday the 2nd, the woman in question across the street was cited. Unfortunately, all that did was serve to further piss her off and further exacerbate the situation. I've got more visuals I had last time. Let me pass these out again if I may.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Cates.
Thank you. So, as you can see, it has
we have
not
this
gotten
on the
better, it's
agenda?
only gotten worse.
No, it's not on the
Okay.
agenda. No.
As I said, it's only managed to make her madder and dig her teeth in harder. I don't know I know she was cited again on the 3rd. I don't know if that carries financial ramifications at this point or what, but she's only up the ante now. This has gone viral. It's on Facebook. We have people coming by our street, trolling slowly, stopping to take pictures, 6, 8, 10 a day, every day. You see my grandkids there, what we have to put up with. Everybody's sick of it. I've brought my neighbors, Kevin and Stephanie Meyer. They are the MF and a-holes next door. My MF and crippled neighbor across the street, Steve Fisher, was gonna try and make it. He hadn't made it. Let that sink in just a minute, will you? The man carries no handicap placard. He parks at the back of the Kroger parking lot like the rest of us. He mows his own yard. He changes his own oil. When his car breaks down, he's under the hood. He's jacking it up. He's under his car, yet he's the MF and crippled neighbor. This is what we're dealing with. I think I used the word vile and repugnant at the last meeting. Those are the only ones that I feel comfortable saying. There's plenty more that I could say, but I won't do it in this forum. Again, I thank Modesto Mundo for taking quick action last time, but it's not working. It's evident by this. I don't know where we go from here. The pocketbook is the only thing I can think of. I don't know how we impose fines, but everybody's sick of it. This room's gonna be filling up rapidly over these next few city council meetings with neighbors that are sick and tired of this. There's no reason we should have to live like this. My wife, my grandkids, Kevin's wife, grandkids, it's unacceptable. I mean, me and my wife have talked about putting our house for sale in the next couple of years. Who's gonna buy our house? What is happening to my home value? This is out of hand and something needs to happen. I don't know who has the authority to make it happen, but something needs to happen. This can't continue. I don't know if this is new business. I know you're not allowed to discuss new business, but as far as I'm concerned, this isn't new business. I was here last week. So does anybody have any response that they can give me as to where we go from here?
Well, again, because it's visitor comments, we can just ask questions for clarification. But if you would like for us to be able to debate it and discuss it with you, we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting. That's how it works.
Let's do that, and I'll bring lots of neighbors with me, and
Okay.
we'll go
All right.
further into it.
And again, from there, we can gather some more information and see if we can bump things up a notch, what we can do.
I have a question,
Yeah.
Modesto, does it carry any kind of financial, the citations? How does that work?
The citation for accumulation does. I don't know what the exact amount that'll go to court. Just for other information is that code enforcement just got confirmation today on vehicle ownership, so we're working a junk vehicle case. And the other one is where the signs are we're restricting the size. So our discussion is we've notified them of the size violation, but we cannot regulate content. So we can't tell them what if the sign is 2 by 4, they can put anything they want on it.
So that I can come in here and spew the vitriol that she spews to us neighbors all I want. And
Yes.
I won't do that. I'm above that, but
And we appreciate that.
this is nuts. It's crazy.
No.
Somebody needs to find out how to get a handle on this woman. It's out of control. I'm looking at how to get a hold of her superiors at JVI. She works for JVI. There's 3 JVI vehicles in her parking lot. I don't know if I can send an anonymous letter to her superiors, letting them know how she's representing their company. They couldn't be thrilled with it, I wouldn't think. It's nuts. That's all I can say. And we just have to sit back. I said it last time, I'll say it again. I can't help but think that if this was something that any of you walked out to, every time you walked outside your front door, something would have been done about it by now.
Well,
But since we live on Pine Street,
Yeah.
it's no big deal.
Well,
We're all frustrated with it, and the part of the frustration is that we do have limitations on what actions we can take by law.
Why don't we put this on the next agenda? This is turning into a discussion.
Okay. So we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Having said that, I guess that's all I've got to say. I appreciate y'all's time, and hopefully we can get something resolved in this matter.
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is anyone else? All right, we'll move on to, next item on the agenda is declaration of conflict of interest. This is an opportunity for any member of City Council to declare any conflict of interest on any items in the consent agenda or regular agenda. So any kind of declaration to be made. Not hearing any, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda, we have item number 1 is approved minutes of August 1, 2022. Item 2 is accept board and commission's minutes for Planning Commission and Traffic Commission. Item 3 is approve 2023 holiday schedule. Item 4 is approve resolution number 901 to accept the refund from Jexa Energy for the 2021 storm recovery charge in the amount of $100,539.77. Item 5 is approve TBT real estate request for a 1-lane closure on parking way from the intersection of this way and that way on Saturday, October 29th, 2022, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. for their annual Truck or Treat event. Item 6 is award a bid 22-06006 utility supply agreement to HD Supply Facilities Maintenance Ltd. DBA USA Blue Book. And item 7, award bid 22-07011 for the Wilderness Golf Course renovation of the bottom dollar carpet, to bottom dollar carpet in an amount not to exceed $57,442. Do I have a request from council to remove any item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Not hearing any, I'll take a motion on the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve items 1 through 7 as written on the consent agenda.
Have a motion from Councilwoman Seth,
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Vinay Sinhanya. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move on to our regular agenda, and this is public hearing. Okay, we're going to go into public hearing to consider the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget. We're going to public hearing at 6:40 p.m.
Mayor, City Council, thank you. I'll give a quick summary of the budget as we presented it to you at our workshop in July. And let me see here. Megan's giving me a control thing. Click right. Okay. Oh, that was that I learned.
Man,
Okay, so
technology.
this is we're getting ready to go into our 22-23 budget. The budget priorities for this year when we went in was again increase our capital investment to improve our city infrastructure and restore our operational funds for maintenance and continue to invest in our employees so we can attract, train, and retain staff. And you'll see that through the budget and our recommendations. The proposed 22 budget for the general fund is balanced. It is $24.55 million. And on the utility fund, which is our enterprise fund, which consists of water, sewer, and sanitation, is $16.6 million. In this budget, we're proposing a tax rate of 32.31 cents. That is down from the 33.9, but of course, it is still considered a tax rate increase due to the values increasing. So we are recommending a rate that is just slightly below the voter approval rate, but it is higher than the no new revenue rate. The general fund is increasing almost $2 million, and the utility fund is $1.5 million. And we have about $3.8 million in CIP projects proposed. A lot of those are from the refunding that we received from our first tranche of American Relief Funds, COVID funds. And then we are doing about almost $1.5 million in cash for the half-cent fund for Parks and Recreation. And we also issued debt in April, or I believe May, for $3.5 million for parks, restrooms, and playgrounds. And that's already underway. Our utility rate, we have an increase of $5.30 cents per month for 5,000 gallons. The average, I think, for citizens is probably about 5,500, but the state usually uses 5,000 as the baseline for comparison of cities. We're also recommending a residential sanitation rate increase of $2 per month, going from 19 to 21. A lot of that is to make us a little more competitive in our CDL drivers that drive the vehicles, and also our tipping fee at the landfill and fuel. That's where most of that is going in the sanitation side. I didn't mention on the slide, we also have an increase on the recycling side, and that's to pay for our rental facility with Werner, and also transportation cost to Houston to take it to our municipal recycling facility. So commercial sanitation rates on top of that will increase 11% along with the residential rates. And then in this budget, we have a 5% market adjustment for all positions, and we're continuing to implement the pay for performance fee. Just from a general overview of the revenues, I think a lot of citizens would be surprised that property tax really only makes up 23% of the budget. In addition to that, the industrial district is almost equal to the property tax, but the largest portion of our revenue is derived from sales tax of about $8.1 million for the general fund. That, and our studies a long time ago when we were looking at the 4B at the time, about 68% of the sales tax was generated by non-residents. We've just been blessed that we're kind of town, for everybody to come shopping in for the other cities in the area. Franchise fees, that is for the utility companies to reimburse us for operating in the right-of-way. And then the miscellaneous revenues are most likely, are made up of revenues for permitting, civic center, recreation center revenues, just fees for service. And then you can see our regional tax rates. We are the lowest tax rate for cities over 20,000 in our region. We're at, again, this is our proposed rate of 32 cents. The next rate, right above us is Sugar Land, and then Baytown has the highest rate that we've seen is 79 cents. So we're extremely, again, that shows for, I always say, three things. We have a good industrial district. We're, the shopping area for our area, so we're blessed with sales tax, and we have a volunteer fire department. All three of those things really help us keep a low tax rate for our citizens. And then when we advertise our tax increase, you can actually see how this would affect a home. And so when I mentioned values, let's see. Oh, I hit a wrong button. Where's my pointer?
Pointer is the big one.
Okay. Today, our tax rate is 0.339. We're recommending to go to 0.323121. And you can see values have gone up. Where right now the average home value is $224, is now going to $246. And so the tax rate, based on this value, even though it's higher than here, the average home would pay $760. With the lower tax rate, but the value going up, it would go to $795. So an average citizen, that home price would see $34.60 for the year, a little over, $2 a month. And then this is our total evaluation overall on all properties. Some of the key changes, the budget, again, this is a year where we're getting ready to take over and operate our new animal control facility. So we're adding positions on here. So we have an animal control manager. These salaries are for salaries and benefits, everything. This is what I would call tax, title, and license. A kennel manager, another humane officer. We're also upgrading the crossing guards, where we're having I think we have a mixture, I can't remember the number, where we have six temporary and three full-time. So what we're really doing is we're getting rid of the temporary and we're going to all full-time. So we'll be kind of overstaffed, but they'll all work every day because invariably you have people who call in, they're sick, they can't make it, and then we're scrambling. This will give us a way to move people around when that happens. So we'll have a better coverage on crossing guards. The other one is we're updating a part-time custodian that works at the center, the service center, and her extra time will be spent at the animal control facility. And then we have a pay for performance and market increase. That's at 5% market, and then the 2, 3, and 4 for evaluations throughout the year. That's $744,000. That is the bulk, really, of the increase in personnel changes. And then we have employee insurance also that's going up, and that's nothing to sneeze at $175,000. And that has an impact also to our employees because their rate goes up as well. On the utility side, you can see the effect on the utility bill. The first top portion is the base bill, so it would go up from $29.25 to $31.25, and that's the first 2,000 gallons. And then you can see the per 1,000 gallon, and that 5,000 average rate is, I think it was going up from a little over $59 to $64. So there's about $5.50 overall that someone would see. Now, what I will toot our horn here is that
Wrong button.
excuse me. We give a discount to seniors over 65 of 40%. And so you can see the base bill is $18.75. I've only come across, our staff's only really come across another city that does that in the state, and I think it's Richwood. stuff we've not been able to find. I'm sure there is, we just haven't been able to find someone when we do our rate analysis. So, that's, it's actually, quite sizable when you think about it. It's equivalent to a homestead exemption.
Right.
It winds up, it's just, we put it on the utility side. Let's see. And then our utility rate comparison, we're kind of like middle of the pack. You can see here, this is again out of the Houston region with the proposed rate increase going to 64.55 for that 5,000. We're right in the middle. Houston is the highest, and you can see that we didn't put all the numbers here, but we can see how we rank. We're still just a little tad below the average. Now, we are a little bit above the average on trash at 25. The high in the area is West University. This is a combination of rate of recycling and garbage at $25. And these are all similar cities. All of these cities, I believe, are bagged. There's no carts on this survey, so everybody has the same service.
So did we clarify on the survey that they are providing the same services? It's apples to apples?
It is apples to apples. Not everybody has recycling in there,
Right.
but some cities don't break it out.
Right.
So we decided just to put it together. But I would probably guess that some of the lower cities that are lower in the price may not have a recycling component.
I think we should move towards combining ours as well down the road.
And we're still talking that and looking at see if the software allow us to combine their rate. What I've gathered so far, that council was opening to that. Then the other funds besides the general and utility fund, of course, the general and utility funds are the two biggest funds. The other next biggest fund is the capital projects fund, and then on top there is the 4B. That's the one I had mentioned for. That's funding parks and recreation projects this year. You can see the cash component, and then the $3.5 million, which was debt that was sold. Capital projects fund is 3.8. These are all cash projects. These are usually funded over from savings from the previous year. And so we have 31 projects funded with cash savings or ARP funds that we've been reimbursed for. And then the next big project that we'll be looking at, that staff's meeting with the engineers finalizing the numbers, is the estimate now is for lift station 1 and force main is $13.5 million. We've got our initial $5 million in there for to do the engineering, but next fiscal year, not this fiscal year, we'll be requesting to go out for another $10 million to finish out the balance of this project. So this year, we'll be doing engineering.
I was hoping you had a comma off there.
No, yeah, that actually, that price now for a lift station was what we paid for the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But it's a major lift station. 60% of all flows go through that station in town. So it's a giant one. Equipment replacement fund, this is how we buy our vehicles and charge ourselves, is a little over $2.1 million. The only change that we had there, we added vest for police officers, some extra vest to change out everyone. And then we still have the American Relief, our first tranche. We had 1.5 million, a little over, almost 1.6 million left over. Our recommendation was do the first down payment for a tower truck of 900. Then we have some money set aside for a business facade grant, and then we have an unassigned balance yet that everybody comes in my office every day asking for a piece or proposing a project. So we'll have a list of projects for you, don't worry. And then our second tranche, Megan promises me that we were going to get it in August. I'm counting the days. We'll see. Well, I think we'll get it this year. I just don't know the date. But that'll be another $3.3 million. No projects have been assigned to that. And then the Texas CDBG MIT Harvey funds, that's our amount that's been allotted to us. We have to, 50% of that has to be spent in a low mod area. One of the projects that staff had brought to us that we couldn't fund this year was improvement to the Pine Ditch. And so that was about 1.5 million. But I don't think we can use all of these funds. I think we can use half of these funds in that area because it's not a low mod. The other area, we're going to have to develop a project. And our low mod area, as we understand it, is downtown and our portion about Gatorfield, that neighborhood in there. We may have to see, we may check and see if some of those funds can be used for the force main project.
Yeah, we're thinking there may be some different definition of where the low mod
Yes.
area is.
Yes.
What is counted. We may be counting a different area.
It could be. And then, that's the end of my presentation. I can talk more, though. Can we, do you have some more slides? No? Okay, I'm sorry.
So again, this is a public hearing, so is there any questions from the audience on this? All right, well then we'll go ahead and we'll move on. I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:55, and then we'll go into item 2. Item 2, I have to read this statement. This is a public hearing. I guess I'll tap us in. All right, and this is a public hearing on the property tax rate of 0.323121 per $100, which would increase taxes above the non-new value rate by 4.08% for the City of Lake Jackson fiscal year 2022-2023. And we're in public hearing at 6:56.
Mayor, Council, as I mentioned just previously in the presentation, we're recommending a rate that is just a smidgen under the voter approval rate of 0.326457. So our rate is 0.323121, and that will have I highlighted the average increase to a citizen would be for $34.60 for a value of about $245,000 on the home. As you can see, there are 3 tax rates that we look at. We have of course, our proposed tax rate. The no new revenue rate is 0.310459, and then the voter approval rate on that. But today we're recommending our rate, which is about 4.08% higher than the no new revenue rate. If you have any questions how it's calculated and the 78 pages that it takes to go through,
James is here.
James is here to answer those questions.
Is there any questions from council or anyone? Just an FYI, this is something, I don't think they did this last year, but you may have received this card from the state. And it tells you that you can go to texas.gov/property taxes, and you can put in your county, and it shows you in detail bar graphs and stuff, how different taxing entities, how they impact your tax bill. And it shows you if it, if it goes up or down, how much the increase or decrease is. And so it is helpful. The problem right now is if you just go look at it today, Lake Jackson is the only one that's reporting right now. So the rest of them are behind us. So they'll be reporting their information hopefully soon to that database. And I also noticed that some other counties, they actually put in and it's turned in by the county, and the county's actually put in a question that says, what's your opinion on the tax rate? Do you approve or not approve it? And when I look at all of them, the ones I looked at, it sits there at 50%, bouncing back. It's live, and so it bounces back from below 50% to above 50, but it's just a new piece of data that the state is trying to put out there, trying to make this simpler for us. But some of us believe they failed in that area. All right, is there anything else on this before we go forward? Any other questions?
I would just say one thing on it, because none of us ever want to talk about the tax rate or going up or anything like
Right.
that. It's kind of the elephant in the room. But one thing that I have appreciated from our staff and from this council is the transparency of it. Because you have a lot of government entities that will say, oh, we didn't, we're lowering your tax rate. And they'll just leave it at that. And they don't explain the shell game that essentially it is from a state level. And so I think that Modesto and staff has done a good job of just saying, look, here's where our expenses are, here's what we have to bring in. So just to kind of address the elephant in the room that we don't like.
All right, and
Thank you.
And I think we've said, and I know we've said it at the workshop, but I'll say it again here, is that we, council would greatly appreciate all the work that goes into the budget. And all the pre-planning that we do year-round, basically. It's a year-round process for us. Because in November, again, y'all will start looking at the strategic plan again, and then we'll see it again after the first of the year. So it's a year-long process. It's not just a few months for us, at least in the city of Lake Jackson.
Well, that thanks goes to, a lot of the directors put a lot of work in with their superintendents and supervisors, getting input on, from everybody of this piece of equipment needs to be changed. We need a new one that starts, at the ground level where, where the services get provided. And then between Megan and Milford and James and Pam, who just left, and Laura Marie, who puts it together, and Tony, there's a lot of work behind there. I just get to the chance to present it to you.
Two things. I want to piggyback off of what Rhonda said also. I wish we could fill this room with people for these discussions. But thank you for the mayor of Modesto. I saw that we had a citizen reach out and it started off angry, and then y'all took the time to explain all of this in an email back and forth with that gentleman. And at the end of it, he saw what we have done, and it was a good outcome. I wish that was for everybody. And I know there was heartache. We had to cut a lot of stuff too. You had to be the bad guy. So we're doing everything we can, but I mean, just the cost that what did you say, 120% for chlorine? Things like that, it's crazy. So thank y'all for everything y'all do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, if there's not any other comments, then we'll move on for this public hearing. We'll close the public hearing at 7:01. Now, go to item 3. And item 3, y'all have, when we go forward, you've got this document in front of you that gives the statements that we have to read to meet the requirements of the state. And item 3 is, just a second, I'll get there. Item 3 is consider ratifying the property tax increase of 4.08 as reflected in the budget for the fiscal year of 2022-2023.
Okay, the person making the motion needs to,
Yep, do I have to, read that item 3. The motion needs to be as it stated on this piece of paper. So if there's not any discussion, well, then I accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I
Rock,
move.
paper, scissors?
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors.
Vinay got it.
Sounds like Renee's got it.
I mean, if somebody else wants to do it.
Oh, you
it's
got
fine.
it.
I mean, we already discussed this to death, and, this is the best we can do with all the, what we have to deal with to continue providing the citizens the service they want and the prices in the current economic condition. Move that we ratify the property tax increase of 4.08% as reflected in the budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023.
I have a motion from Councilman Sinhanya.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Baker. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll go on to item 4, which is discuss and consider resolution number 900, adopting the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget. You want to read the resolution, Modesto?
You caught me off guard.
Yeah, no.
You did catch me off guard. I
job.
was sleeping.
Resolution 900. Is it 900 or 901?
We have 2.
Okay, 900.
This is a resolution adopting budget for the city of Lake Jackson, Texas for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023. Whereas a public hearing on the budget was duly held and all interested persons were given an opportunity to be heard for and against thereof.
All right. And Sherry, is it at some point tonight, do we have to suspend rules
for the tax rate ordinance.
for the tax rate ordinance? Okay, y'all remind me.
That's item 5.
Remind me, Sherry. Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion, and you need to read it as, on the sheet as item 4, your motion, if you wish to make such motion.
Mayor, Item 4, budget resolution. I move to adopt the budget for the City of Lake Jackson, Texas for the fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Seth. Need a second?
Second?
Second from Councilman Sinhanya. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, move on to item 5. Discuss and consider first and final reading of ordinance number 22-2252 to adopt the proposed tax rate of 0.323121. And again, we will need to suspend when we go to vote.
This is an ordinance levying the ad valorem tax of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas on all taxable property within the corporate limits of the city, not exempt by law, providing revenues for payment of current municipal expenses and for interest and sinking funds on outstanding City of Lake Jackson bonds, providing for enforcement of collection, providing for a severability clause, providing an effective date, and providing that the charter rule requiring that the ordinance be read at 2 separate regular meetings be suspended.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules for first and final reading for ordinance number 22-2252 to adopt the proposed tax rate.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Sinhanya.
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilman Broadus. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now for the actual ordinance. I'll need a motion for that.
I'll make it.
Okay?
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .323121, which is effectively a 4.08% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
All right, having a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, okay. Thank you. We move on to item 6, discuss and consider reading of ordinance 22-2251, amending chapter 102.1 by revising fee charges for water, sewer, garbage, and dumpster service. Modesto.
This is an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas, amending section 102.1 of the Code of Ordinances by revising the fees to be charged for water, sewer, garbage, and dumpster services, and water and sewer tap fees, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a savings clause, and providing for an effective date. And again, these are the fees that I went over in the budget presentation. You can see those are marked out, and the new fees are marked in red. And so we showed the effect on the water and sewer. On the commercial side, Milford, can you go to the next page, I believe, or the next? These are tap fees here for water and sewer tap fees. And then you can see the residential rates going from 19 to 21, recycling going from 3 to 4 for homes. And then you can see the residential special pickup fees. These are for any waste or yard waste that's greater than 4 cubic yards, which is about the size of a pickup bed, going from $19.65 for trash to $30, which is what we've found is kind of the going rate for the private hauling companies, and then our brush going from $14.35 to $30. Again, the first 4 yards, if you are included in your twice a month service. Anything over would be charged this rate. Then you have, we're also adding a residential special pickup fee for appliances. We charge nothing, and we're recommending to go to 40, which is the rate at Best Buy, Champaign, Lowe's, and Home Depot. And so we would just be equal with everyone in that regard. I don't think we get a lot, but we do get some, especially refrigerators. When we pick that up, we have to store it, and then someone from the garage then has to go and empty the Freon, and then we
Tag it.
then we send it to our recycler, our metal recycler. On the next page is the average of 11% pickup fees for 3 and 4 yard dumpsters. We've also looked at this, but we weren't willing to propose a larger increase. We are still the lowest commercial rate in Brazoria County that we can find, or even some of the cities outside of our area in the HCC region. It's hard to get the rates, but when we can't find anybody lower by a significant margin. But we weren't willing to. We thought 11% was probably the highest that we could recommend this year. But so I see this increasing quite a bit over the years to get caught up. But the one thing that we do have in the budget is for New Gen to do a thorough analysis of our sanitation rates, and this will be one because we think we're extremely low. Here, and then you can see the roll-offs. We did make a mid-season change again, but we're increasing them once more to catch up to the private sector. And again, we're very competitive on our roll-off rates, and our roll-off rates are really for construction. Someone's building or remodeling, it's mostly commercial, and they're putting all that material in the roll-offs. And we're just trying to make sure that we don't lose money every time we go to the landfill. And the last one was our charge for tree and landscape services to dispose of yard waste we're recommending to go to $16 to $18 per cubic yard. The mayor did receive a request from a citizen for a senior citizen discount on that. Staff's not opposed to that. It is a little tough, though, to figure out how to get it worked out, because the senior would have to go with the contractor to the site, show us a water bill, so our employee in the field could mark that as senior, and they would have to come back up to the billing office and note it. If we don't have that senior coming there, we think we could get taken advantage of on that. So it's more of the mechanics how to get it done.
Yeah, and the senior's request is the individual was 70 years old, and he was concerned because being 70 years old, he wasn't able to take advantage of the option to be able to take his tree waste to the landfill, to our mulch site, and deliver it there at no cost. So the only source that he has is to have a contractor take it to to our facility. And so he's just asking if, because he physically can't take advantage of that, if that was, and other seniors possibly can't take advantage of that, if there was any ability for us to give some kind of, different rate for seniors. And so I said that I would bring it to council to have the discussion.
To make this process easier, perhaps we could do, if you're a senior and you take that garbage, this type of waste, you just don't get charged as a, resident taking it.
Oh,
Because the issue was here that he just physically unable to carry that and take it to the dump. So he's not necessarily hiring a tree cutting service to come cut the tree, or perhaps his cost is hauling it to the site.
okay. And then not the dumping.
Yeah. It's something to consider. Something to staff to look at and consider and figure out,
We always have the option of trying something like that, seeing how it works out for a year, see how many people take advantage of it, and if we need to revisit it to fine tune it, and we always have that opportunity.
I don't know that we'll have a whole bunch of people that take advantage of it, but I think there are some people that it would be helpful for them in the
Yeah.
community.
Agreed.
I can see that.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that idea.
Just have to work out the mechanics.
yeah, we could, and if it's free, that may make it enticing enough for someone to, the senior still has to come and show us
Right.
Yes.
the
Yeah.
water bill, and maybe, where if it's a 10 or 20% discount, they may not bother. If it's free, then they may actually come out with a contractor. We could try it and see if it explodes on us, but I don't know. We've never had, we don't ask if anybody's a senior or not coming out.
And again, if they choose to put it on the side of their property and it's larger than 4 cubic feet, they're gonna get charged just like anybody else.
Correct.
But they just don't have, they're just saying, I just don't have the ability to be able to take it and take advantage of the free, if I take it myself.
Or the
free.
other option, we pick it up free.
That I would not recommend.
I'm just-
We're really trying to encourage
We
the
gotta cover our
contractor
cost.
to do it because, you know, we've gotten in a bind this summer where, you know, we were pulling all our resources for garbage and large trash was the give. It had to give and get delayed. So if we can still keep the contractor involved, that's a positive
Right.
for us.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I would be supportive if we just do this one step first and see how it goes. see what
Okay.
happens, right? That's my recommendation.
Okay, so in the next ordinance, we'll probably have a waiver component in here, so you can mention that for seniors at the site, it would be free if the contractor's bringing it. So we'll make that revision.
Is everybody okay with that, or any
Yes.
concern? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe
Again, this
nice-
is first reading, so.
And it may be nice at some point, because we do offer quite a few services to our seniors like this, and a lot of them say, I don't know anything about it.
Right.
Maybe it's someplace kind of pull together everything that we do offer for our seniors,
Right.
just communication-wise.
Okay. All right, so again, this is first reading, and so we'll be bringing it back next meeting. So I need a motion on this item 6.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the first reading of the ordinance 22-2251, amending chapter 102.1 by revising fee charged for water, sewer, garbage, and dumpster services as presented.
I'll
Okay.
second that, but I had one thing to add. Can I still do that?
You have to amend.
Not to add to the amendment, but
Do you want more discussion?
one thing.
Okay.
Discussion?
Yes.
Oh, sure,
Can we do
we can
that?
have discussion, yeah.
Okay.
So you'll second, and then we'll
Yes.
discussion, further discussion.
So really, this is not discussion, it's just, again, something I think that we need to say. Water, sewage, and garbage is a service that we offer. I think Lake Jackson goes kind of above and beyond with that. And, I mean, it still is a service, it needs to be paid for. But I'm more comfortable with these fees increasing than a tax increase. Because water, sewage, and garbage are all things that each individual homeowner can control, unlike a tax rate. So I just think that's something that needed to be said.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We move on to item 7, discuss Brazos Water Authority increase. So this is Mr. Longoria.
At our last meeting, Mr. Longoria had sat down with the mayor and I and gone over a summary of the increases. And he volunteered to come, and the mayor and I said, no, don't worry, I think we can handle it. And then
We couldn't answer some
I
of the
called,
questions.
I called back up and said, Juan, the mayor couldn't handle it.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
So Mr. Longoria came out, and I think he's brought some troops also with him to help him.
Well, the reason I brought Ronnie with me, he's our general manager. I wanted everybody to visualize and see who the general manager is, and so it's a walkthrough. But yes, I did meet with both Gerald and Modesto, and we exchanged information on the BWA and the price increase. And Modesto felt pretty comfortable being able to answer whatever questions the council had. And lo and behold, I got an email saying, by the way, would you be glad we would like to have you come over, and which I had volunteered to do. And because there were some questions that the council asked, which Modesto was not able to answer.
He's throwing
And-
you under the bus.
Yeah,
Well,
he was over-
that's why I said in the email.
And so I agreed to come over and try to answer whatever questions. I did ask Modesto when he first came into to this room, I said, Modesto, is there a reason for the sequencing of items 7 and 8? That here I am, I'm going to be answering questions that you might have. And if I pass a test, then I'll feel like the gladiator and said, all those in favor say aye, and all those opposed, nay.
Yeah.
Mr. Longoria, I was worried that if you didn't get appointed, then we couldn't get answers to our questions.
I don't know if that's good or bad. But anyway, I'm glad to answer whatever questions you might have. I know we had a price increase, and we have had price increases over the last few years, more than the 12.5% increase that we had this year. And I went back and looked at some of the data from, say, 2015 to today. And back in 2015, we had a nearly a 16.9% increase, 38 cents per 1,000 gallons. And so, yes, it is a large price increase, but there are three areas that we're facing, you're facing, everybody's facing because of the pandemic, because of the inflation that we're seeing, and everybody's struggling with it. So we're not unique, you're not unique, and you do the best you can with what is available to you. And the one area that we struggle with, like you folks are struggling with, is chemicals. And even now, we're still getting changes in the price of chemicals. And like Gerald said, well, tell them you can't afford the price, get somebody else. Well, there is nobody else. You can get a force majeure that see you. And so what are we going to do without caustic, or what are we going to do without chlorine? You folks can't do without them, and we can't do without them. And it's still going up. Inflation is still in play. And how this is going to be resolved, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be rapid, I don't think. But it's a guess on my part. So we're going to have to deal with inflation for the next period of time and see how this rolls out. And but it's going to be tough. And every time that we go through the motions of putting a budget together, and we start our process, or Ronnie does with his group in February. And we work through it for about 2 or 3 months to try to reconcile the numbers. And what I noticed that maybe I'm not doing enough or adequately is providing enough data as we're working through the numbers to brief Modesto and Gerald, the city manager and the mayor, wherever they are at the time. This is what we're facing, and exchange some information so that we won't get, quote, surprises on either side. And maybe we need to do more of that.
Yeah, I think there was, of course, there were some assumptions because, we buy a lot of similar chemicals and we understand, that component. There were a couple of questions that I couldn't answer for the last meeting, and Mayor and Council, I think they really had to do with the maintenance and administrative expenses of maybe more detail, where you're getting hit with that. This was the summary that I gave them, and I made some notes, Mr. Longoria, when we had our meeting, but those were two areas that I didn't make good enough notes on, and the other ones a lot of them were self-explanatory.
Yeah, the maintenance. Yeah, the three areas are the chemicals, the maintenance, and the payroll are the three large increases that we're seeing.
So what's driving the maintenance? Let's start with that one.
Well,
Your general manager want to jump in on that one?
Yes, sir. Couple of things would be driving that up. One, this plant was built in 1988, went into production March of 1989. It's got some age on it, and we are continuously having to do repairs. Our parts are more expensive now than they have been. And our auditor had informed us last year some of the areas where we were charging parts to and equipment, we couldn't do that anymore. We have some 500 horsepower motors out there. We routinely rewind 2 to 3 a year, just because of the Gulf Coast and the environment we're in. We used to put those into a repair and replacement budget, which is was in our capital area. He said those have to go to the expense area. That budget last year was $500,000. We dropped it to $300,000 there this year, and moved $200,000 over to the. You'll see in the maintenance area. Let me get to the right page. That went to tool tools and equipment, we put money in there to, pay for those pumps and motors that need to be rewound. We also took, the general support fund, we took $300,000 out of it and moved it over into, some of those items went to, well, all of those items went to maintenance. So we just moved the money around. So, to satisfy our auditor, so when he comes in this year and audit it, it's in the proper category. And that's the reason the maintenance expense went up and the capital, some of the capital expense went down.
Mr. Woodruff, on the chemical side, since that's the largest part, is there any two or three, I mean, I know you have a lot of chemicals at Tree Water.
We have a lot of chemical.
Or is there any one specific or two that are really driving the increase?
Chlorine's the big one. I heard y'all talk about the 120% increase. We have the same increase.
Is that chlorine or chloramine?
Ours is chlorine.
Chlorine.
It's chloramine is a combination of, in our case, we use ammonia sulfate that we blend the chlorine with to
Okay.
create a chloramine.
Okay.
Both of those have gone up. See, the chloramine, let me get it here. The ammonia sulfate, is up 70%. The chlorine's 120%. Caustic soda has taken a huge increase. Our anionic polymer, we didn't have to go up on it, but as I said, the caustic soda, which we use for pH adjustments, up 100%. The cationic polymer went up 60%. So huge increases in our chemical expenses.
And the chemistry y'all use is, you have to use the chemistry that's defined by TCQ, correct?
TCQ have recommended treatment schemes. We also have every chemical out there has to be ASF approved for use in potable water.
Right.
We have parameters we have to meet to keep us from having, we have, as y'all, the minimum chlorine standard. We actually come out of the plant a little higher on the chlorine because we don't want to have an issue in our distribution system of y'all's. We cannot be over a 4.0 going out of the plant. We normally go out about a 3.8, which hits y'all's facility around 3.6 to give you a boost to carry that chlorine through your system, so you're not adding as much chlorine here. We do that so we can get a good residual all the way down to Freeport, Oyster Creek to Brazoria, which is some of our older water. So that way we can carry these residuals. Getting to Angleton is normally around about a 2.8, 2.9. So, and then it could sit in their tanks for a while. So we definitely want to be well above the minimum.
All right.
And I think the last one that I definitely couldn't answer was the administrative expense difference.
Administrative expense, all right. Let me get back to that page.
I think you have one on insurance, right?
Yes, sir.
I had said insurance was
Right.
one was
The
one of
insurance is up, definitely.
Sorry.
We're insuring about $32 million worth of equipment and facilities. That's not counting approximately 100 miles large distribution pipeline that's insured, and that also includes the liability. We brought some new products online in the recent years. The 10 million gallon large clear well that everybody sees when they go down 2004. The admin building, some new pumps, new high service pumps to help get the water out, and that drove up our amount we had to insure. We're estimating we're gonna go over budget this year and spend about $172,000, and that's where that $180,000 for insurance comes from.
Just out of curiosity, under the roles, you've got 4 under supervision, office, and clerical. What are the roles within that? It's page 5.
There's actually 5 there. We got one that's not filled, but the money's there for that position. There's an office manager, there's myself, and there's an assistant general manager. And we have 2 technicians, we have 2 clerks, administrative assistant 2 and administrative assistant 1.
And I take that, are all your operators carry some kind of license?
All our operators are certified. We do not allow an operator out there to make a chemical addition or make any pump changes until they've obtained a sea surface water license. So for approximately 2 years, they'll follow out around and do maintenance type things until they can get that sea certification. It requires a minimum of 2 years' experience. As soon as possible, we require within the first 6 months of employment to obtain their D license.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons we don't want to lose people. It takes such a long time to train them.
Investment.
For 2 years, just walking around not doing anything, quote, like turning valves and things like that. So we want to keep them. And then also the people that we have are going to end up having to work a desal plant. They're going to have to get certified to do that. So what we have, we want to just continue moving with the folks that we have that are currently trained to go with the certification for the desal. And we're hoping to break ground on the, well, right now, we're looking at a pilot plant, which is in play by the end of this year and operational the first and second week of January. But sometime next year in 2023, you'll probably see some dirt getting moved to lay the foundation for the actual $6 million gallon a day desal. It's the first phase. One of the things that Ronnie reminded me is we already had the money back in 2015 to do the desal plant. And it was $23 million, but we didn't start with that plant because the Corps of Engineers came in and we started to redo things that had already been done before. So we lost about 3 years of that. So the money is there, but the plant's gonna cost us more money. It's just the way it is. And, but at least we'll all have a desal unit to be able to get the water from. Right now, one of the things for me to tell you is that we do have water rights to dip into get some water out of the Brazos River. And it goes from Dow Chemical who stores it and transfers it to us as it runs through the canal. And because of the shortage of water, heat, and everything else, the water hasn't been flowing as it should be. So we ended up having to get some guidelines from the water master that we have in play and saying, hey, if you don't have water rights earlier than 1960, you cannot dip into the Brazos. Guess what? Ours are 1964. So technically, we shouldn't be getting water out of
We being BWA?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
BWA. And so, being the good neighbor the Dow has been all these years, they're buying water for their plant, but they're allowing us to enough water for us to run our plants. This makes the urgency for us to move forward with a desal. We're not sure whether we're going to have another drought. Chances are we are. Magnitude, don't know. It could be as severe as this year. But we need to continue moving as fast as we can to get at least the first 6 million gallons by 2024.
2024, early 25.
How much over the original 23 million do they propose that it's gonna cost now because of the delay?
That question's hard to state at the moment.
Ballpark.
I'm sorry, I would look for possibly up to somewhere around 27, 28 million.
Another 4 or 5 million.
Yes, sir. We've been able to put a little, some funds away to help absorb that cost, and that's what we'll try to do as much as possible.
Okay.
There's still another bond issue that we'll have for the second portion, of the next 6 million to make it a total of either 10 or 12. And, but before we get to that, we'll have to go through all of the cities and get everybody to say, yes, we should move forward like we have with previous bond issues. Because these are issues that are gonna last 20, 25 years, 30 years. So all of you being our customers, it's like a marriage contract, you know, it's for better, for worse, until one of us expires. And so you're with us for the duration. And so we want to do what's right so that the people tomorrow won't have as many problems.
All right, one other question real quick is, you had mentioned, because DSAL's coming on, you're gonna start training your people to get their certification to do DSAL. So is that in this budget for the additional training, or is that gonna be a future cost?
That is budgeted. We had $20,000 in last year's budget for this. We've got 25 for this coming year, and we've upped the travel a little bit because we're gonna have to take them to where the training is. Routinely here in Texas, most of that training either takes place in El Paso, out at the K. Bailey Hutchinson plant, or it takes place up at Granbury where they have another desal facility.
Okay.
And that there's South Central Membrane Association does the training, and it's approved by TCEQ, so we can get the certification added to our existing operators.
And that covers all 18 operators?
That all of them will be certified.
Okay.
Okay.
Right now, they have been over to the plant, the K. Bailey Hutchinson plant, so they've had a hands-on. They know what the plant looks like.
Right.
They have a feel for how to run the plant. It's not, you're gonna get classrooms and you intellectually know what to do. They at least have seen a plant, what's required to do
Right.
different things. So, once they get certified, then they'll be able to handle whatever comes their way.
So I'm gonna, I'm gonna jump in now, my turn. Thank you both for coming. I appreciate it. This helped tremendously. We should have done this the last meeting. So my suggestion moving forward is that we have these guys, if not just once, a couple of times before, so we can at least have these conversations.
Before the next,
Right, when you start your budget stuff
We
next
agree.
year.
I think, Councilman Blanchard, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring them in May.
Great, much
So,
better.
Right before you have the workshop, you've already heard what they're proposing. When they do give us their budget in May.
We try to get it to you in
so-
May.
so the cities can
We're
plan, so we'll
required
bring it to you
by
at the same
June,
time.
by 1st of July to get it to you, but we always try to get it to you in May because we know what y'all need to go through to get y'all's budgets.
Right, and I want to be able to see you and talk to you and ask you. I mean, all of our citizens are going to feel an impact every single month when they get a bill. So that's something that is in their face that we're going to have to answer for.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And so I want to be able to have these conversations and have those answers. You're one guy for our entire city. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that you're up there fighting for our citizens like we do. You know what I mean? That was where I wanted to be able to have this face to face. So this helps. Just moving forward, that's all I ask. If we can do that earlier, so we can see y'all, communication would just make things a lot easier.
one of the things that I've given a number of talks over the years to different organizations. One of the things I keep emphasizing that water is a very important product in our life. It's a matter of life and death for a person, for an animal, for plants, for anything. So you look around and say, gee, to make a car does require water, like 18,000 gallons to make a car for the different pieces. And so water becomes a very important piece. And you never know, yes, we complain about a nickel a thousand, whatever it is.
Right.
As long as it's an increase, people will complain. But we just don't hear any complaints when you go to the grocery store, H-E-B or Kroger's, and you buy a case of bottles, and you're paying about $1 per gallon. No complaints there.
Right.
You just buy it and say, well, I prefer that to open up the faucet and get a glass of water. And that's okay, that's a preference. And that everybody makes their own decision. But we just need to recognize that water is a very important commodity. And I'm gonna make another statement that may get me down, but I'm gonna make a statement saying, as time goes on, the price of water is gonna increase. That's just the way it is. And with the inflation, the big unknown for everybody, you and me and everybody else, it's just something that's gonna have to be put in the mix. You're gonna be seeing it, we're gonna be seeing it as household. So it's just a reality. But I will make that statement, and then you can vote on it, the next item.
I think this is a true statement, but I think our job, as well as your job, all of our jobs here are to make sure that people feel the minimum impact and that we are spending whatever dollars that we ask as wisely as possible. So, I mean, it's a true statement, but we still have to ask the questions and, I mean, we still have to have these conversations.
As an aside, the reason Ronnie is very important, he was here with BWA on day one. The first gallon went out, he was involved with that. So, and then he was with us for several years. I was not there yet. But he left BWA to get some more experience. He wanted to be a general manager. Well, it turned out several years later, we had a need for a general manager. We had 32 people that applied for the job from all over the U.S. And Ronnie was one, and so we ended up picking him. And he's been a very good resource for us. He knows the plant inside out and has been a good coach, you know, moving things forward in a way that makes sense. Nobody wants to see a price increase, but there are too many variables, hard to handle. And you know it. We all know it in our house, you know.
Plus the water is one of the most precious commodity there is.
Yes, correct.
And rarest. So people don't realize that we don't have the rights to that water coming down the Brazos.
Article in today's Houston Chronicle on the small community of Concan, and they had 5 wells. 2 are working, 3 are out, and they're trucking water from one of the wells to their storage tank. They have 4 50,000 gallon tanks. So they've got 2 trucks going back and forth. It takes an hour to load, an hour to unload. So and if they miss one of the routes and they're late, there's gonna be a shortage of water. And the Frio River that runs right next to it is, there's hardly any water there. So things are happening, and that's when you realize, gee, we don't realize the value of turning the faucet, water comes out. I can take a shower, I can do all of the other things that we do in our household. And we just assume it's there until it's not there, and then we panic. So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna truck? And the other thing I'm gonna mention to you is, over the years, including up to last year, that we've been telling the people, are you gonna need more water? Punching another hole in the ground is not the right solution moving forward. And one of the things that I've given in my talks is, that I found out is, there are 5 counties, Brazoria County, Galveston, Harris, Fort Bend, and Montgomery, that had the highest subsidence throughout the United States. Gee, I wonder why. We've been taking out of the aquifer as an aggregate more than 400 million gallons a day. And I wonder why we're having subsidence, particularly in the ship channel, where you had a hurricane, had all this water come in. Don't worry about the 16 feet of water that the ocean is going to rise because of global warming and things like that. Worry about the things that we can handle, and that's the reason I gave you that's what subsidence really could look like if we're not careful. The place around the ship channel has lost anywhere from 8 to 12 feet in some sections. So it's a reality that's happening.
There's a lot of countries, people take a shower and a bath out of a 5-gallon bucket of water rather than having a free water running. So we are very fortunate
Yes.
that what we have. So
Well, if we're not careful, we could end up with what's happening out west with Lake Mead and some of the other folks. They're lucky to get some rain right now, but how long is that gonna last?
Yeah, I didn't notice that till I went out to Vegas and we rode a bus out and we we was able to visit out to the Grand Canyon and to meet, and we was able to see the water level, how the water has dropped, and it let you see how important the water was, how high it was, and how high it didn't drop, and it's just evaporating out there. It's no water out there. It's just becoming a desert.
We're losing on the Brazos Basin about 1.1% of the basin a week at the time.
So basically, it's gonna be the same way as it is out there.
It could be, we're about 76% of capacity on the basin. This time last year, we were in the 90s, 90%. So it's a tough year.
I think just the sticker shock for me, for sure. So it helps to be able to ask the questions. I mean, it's something that's gonna affect not just our citizens, but the whole county. So maybe Gayla can help spread the word over there when she writes it up. But, I mean, just so people understand where it's gotta come from, you know, what you guys are having to deal with, so.
We're not trying to scare people. We're
Right.
trying to make
But
them
that
aware
does, that scares people. That scared me. So,
There are consequences to
Right.
everything that we do, and we just need to be aware of it, and as we move forward.
I appreciate it very much.
So, if there aren't any more questions, we can go to the yea or nay as.
Yeah, we haven't done the thumb
Yea or
down
nay,
yet.
we vote yea or nay, and
I'm gonna get away from you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodruff.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item 8, which is discuss and consider reappointment of Juan Longoria to Lake Jackson representative to BWA Board.
I'd like to be the one to make that motion then,
I'll second that.
that we do reappoint Mr. Longoria.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
You sure you want to go one more time?
You bet.
We got a lot of droughts and we got big CapEx expenditures and
I've been your board member, or your rep for about 28 years, since I retired from Dow, before I retired from Dow. So I've enjoyed it, and I was gonna leave a few years ago until we got to the desal concept, and I said, you know, as a chemist, a former chemist, I sure would like to get involved and have our first commercial unit in our area. The only other one is over in El Paso, and San Antonio has one, but they shut it down. And
we
they're short of water.
appreciate your
So that
dedication.
makes sense, huh?
See that through. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
thank
Go
you.
get 'em.
All right.
I
Desal
live
some
for
water.
another day, right?
Desell us some water.
The gladiators survived.
The gladiators. All right, we're going to go to item 9, discuss proposed changes to the mobile food unit inspections and requirements. This is Sherry Russell and David Walton tag team. David is not here.
So it's just you.
So
Just share
I'm
it.
running around the track solo.
Ah,
Hand the baton to myself. Okay, so a while ago, you all came up with a list of things you wanted to see food trucks do. Not the food truck parks, but just food trucks in themselves. And so we took that list, and I sat down with David and Leslie and Sabrina and went through the list and tried to work it into the ordinance to see. And then as we're going through the ordinance, I found out that, oh, we don't do that. What's that? I'm like, okay, let's just fix this. While we're in here, let's get this fixed. So first of all, we have just definitions, which only the lawyers are interested in. And then on 5034, we have the food trucks, they're MFUs, but the food trucks, to make sure they're mobile.
I noticed we went to a lot of acronyms in this.
Yeah,
Ordinance.
I like acronyms. Anyway. So,
The MFU doesn't sound good.
that's, okay.
I like it. I like it.
That's what the state uses. It's in the TFR. I looked it up to make sure, because I had all these different languages. And I finally looked up what they had, and I'm like, well, all right, if that's what you want,
Okay.
yes.
Slip of a tongue and you're in
Everybody
trouble.
grow up. All right. So, to make sure the food trucks are mobile, the very initial inspection and the annual inspection, they have to bring it to City Hall. And then on the second inspection, Leslie will go out and see them on site. And, let's see. All of this is just changing to my acronym. also on subsection I on 5041, they've got to be fully mobile. We've put that in there, and they've got to visit their commissary or central prep facility at least once a day to get rid of everything. Of course, their commissary might be the building that they park next to. But they have to have a commissary, and they have to get rid of all their waste and everything. So the site requirements in 41.1, this is where y'all came in, not within 60 feet of a residential property. You've got one per site. Otherwise, I mean, I will bring back the regulations for the parks.
Right.
And that will have, if you want to have more than one per site, they'll be at the park. They've got to have some sort of a restroom, you know, employees mainly need to go. We all need to go. So, this is something y'all wanted. You didn't want them to put signs out everywhere. So they need to attach it to their vehicle instead of putting out freestanding signs. And the permanent electrical utility, so they're not running off generators all the time, because that's very noisy and it also causes some sort of pollution. Anyway. And then, of course, if they're a push cart or they're like at the farmer's market, they can use generators. These parking spaces and the place where the food truck is parked, this is normal throughout our code of ordinances and our subdivision code, that the parking spaces and where it's parked are going to be on some sort of a paved surface, something impervious, so they don't sink in the mud, and they don't have grass growing up around their wheels. We want to make sure there's some sort of access wherever they are. If they don't have access from the street, they're going to have a written access agreement from their neighboring property, so we don't have to go in and deal with neighbor issues. Cover all your gross stuff all the time. And this is a mistake in 41.2. The exceptions are to 541.1, the temporary events, basically, that goes with site plans and the electricity, et cetera, for temporary events. And anything interesting, let's see. Yes, the fees changed. So if you go to, I have 50-48. Okay, page 5. What we did was try to make them more realistic. We're $50 to apply, and then $135, this is annually, and that's per vehicle. So even if you're gonna have like a train or something, like 2 vehicles attached, the inspection is for both, and so you're gonna pay an inspection fee for both. And that's actually, staff wanted that, and just to simplify the whole fee structure. And the rest is just don't transfer your license. You can't transfer your license.
So is that normal for around food trucks? Because we don't want to make it like cost prohibitive for them to.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I asked them about that, and they had looked around already, and
Okay.
these are normal
Okay.
fees. So
Thank you.
the main question I have for y'all is after we pass this, after 2 readings, or if you have changes, let me know, of course. How much head time are we gonna give the food trucks? When should this actually go into effect?
Okay, under 5041.1, doesn't the 1 MFU allowed per site, isn't that the whole Winnie conversation that we had many times? They've got their food plus the
Coffee.
coffee thing. This would take
Okay,
them out of that.
No, that explained to me that they're actually on a lot next to, it's like 2 separate lots, and they're on a lot next to them. That's what I remember
But they do want to have 2 on
being
one lot.
explained.
Just so they would qualify as a food court,
Food
which
court.
she'll bring back at a separate
So
time.
they're gonna try to go for a food court.
Yes,
Okay.
because they currently, so they have their own catering vehicle, and then as of right now, they have the one beverage that is on a separate lot technically, and then they have the other food one that operates periodically. So they will technically have 3 within that area, but one is on a
So,
separate lot.
and they're okay with that, because they came and fought a lot in front of city
They'll
council.
come back when we talk about food courts.
Right.
Okay, let me
And
keep going.
And again, that's why I wanted to wait and to see when did y'all want this to start? Do you want to wait until I get the zoning for the food courts together first and then have it all go into effect at once?
I don't have a problem with that.
I
That
will
makes
say-
sense.
So, yeah,
That makes
like-
sense to me too, yeah.
Okay.
Because you would restrict people like Winnie's. I believe they're the only one at this point that would be impacted if you implemented this before food truck courts, but that would restrict.
It would impact them.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
and
wouldn't want
it
to
would
do
give
that.
them a chance to, because you're reading this in isolation, nothing might trigger, but then it's like, okay, no, wait, if they see them together and then like, well, I'm not gonna be, I wouldn't qualify for this reason, I don't have enough land, or I've got whatever. So I need to make sure I qualify under the old, and they could give a little compare and contrast and sort of, I think that would be good.
A mobile food unit having to have a permanent electrical establishment, that takes, that's the whole point of a mobile food unit. Why would we make them have a permanent? That doesn't make any sense.
You just plug it in. You have a wire and you just plug it in and you can unplug it and take off.
All of the ones we currently have in the city limits adhere to that already, so that's not saying that would not impact anyone at this time, not saying it wouldn't impact anyone in the future, but even all the ones at Winnie's are attached to.
Yeah, and
Electricity
because that
currently.
doesn't apply, correct me, sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but if they're going somewhere for a one-off, they run generators
Yes.
there, but if they're
Right.
day-to-day, they don't wanna run generators anyway, cause it's wasteful and
Yes.
loud, and so they all set it up
So it
plug-in
wouldn't
style unless they're going to the,
So it wouldn't
The
apply-
farmer's market.
correct.
Yeah, farmer's
festival.
market.
They could run
or,
generators at farmers markets all day.
Festival of Lights or,
Right.
Yeah.
parks. and so-
It's
Yep.
like, it's
Food
like
truck
an
festival.
RV. I mean, you plug in your RV, but it's
When you're
still
at home, or when you're at a location,
At the
right.
park with electricity.
All of them that we currently have a restroom agreement with whoever they're set up
They're
at?
They
supposed
have
to,
to for
that's required
employees.
now
Okay,
That's law
Not for customers, for employees.
Right.
for employees.
Yes, sir.
So can I follow up on Councilman Blanchard's question? If a truck stays there, it has to have permanent power. But then I understand the temporary one for like festivals and stuff, but there are some food trucks like in Houston, they move around every day.
right.
Do they have to have permanent power? If we have someone like that who wants to move from site to site to site?
Temporary
Let's,
based on
how
location.
is this written? Each site, so what we're looking at here is if there's a food truck site, the site provides the electricity.
Yeah.
And so if you're gonna be a site for a food truck, you're gonna have the electricity,
gonna-
and so they can just plug in wherever they.
Okay.
Like Winnie's
So-
already has electricity
Right.
hardwired.
So if you want a food truck to come to your site, you most likely,
Provide
you
these
need to,
services.
you need to provide that basic level of having some
The
power.
restroom
put
and
to-
electricity.
Right,
Restroom
so there's a
electricity.
site plan in here, if you want to have food trucks come, that you come and bring your site plan, and David will look over your property lines, to make sure you're not within 60 feet, and all of the requirements. I mean, it's not as formal as a building plan, so.
Makes sense.
So, again, it's to address the food trucks that move to a location, stay at a location year-round. For example, like the nail salon, the old nail salon that was on Plantation Drive, which isn't anymore, but they have 2 food trucks that have been there for years. And so the idea is that, other than, right now, we require that they have to have an agreement with the business that's there for them to use the restroom, for the employees to use the restroom. What we're saying here is that the property owner or the business, the nail salon in this example, would have more involvement in and buy-in with the food truck being there. So they provide the pad or the location for a food truck, and then a food truck can come in, regardless of who it is, can come in and lease that pad, and it's got power tied to it.
I think the one question that will come up, because we've come across this before, is there will be a food truck that wants to come and locate downtown.
Well, that's,
Well, most of downtown is city
Public.
property.
yeah.
Yeah,
city
they'll
property.
have to come to city council, but then, I guess they would have to have a separate restroom agreement with the business owner if council allowed it.
Right.
But I do foresee that happening.
Well, we've had it for one-offs. I mean, for the, for a while there, downtown tried to bring them in on Thursday nights, and that went away, but it was for, one-time events or occasional events, and I don't even know if they came to council, get approval for them to tie up streets with
I
food
don't remember
trucks.
that.
Huh?
I don't remember that coming.
No, well, they did it, it's just, I don't think they ever came to council.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's up to y'all if you want to become landlords of food trucks. Because basically they would be leasing spots from us. So,
right, and the challenge, that, especially when you get into downtown, is that they start, I know there's some people that believe that they impact brick and mortar, and some that don't believe. I think they do impact brick and mortar. People have invested in the brick and mortar to be downtown, so, but.
I don't want Lake Jackson to be food truck landlords personally.
But there are plenty of opportunities where, I think with the ordinance we're trying to develop here is that they can go to an establishment that has parking, a large enough area to basically contract with that business of setting up their food truck there. Just the business has to go through the process of, that we're defining here on how to do that, which part of that is providing electricity.
And sure, will this be in writing? So, not a verbal agreement, it has to be in writing. The restroom agreement and
the restroom agreement
all
and
has
the
to be in
easements will
writing?
be in writing, yes. And they have a signed contract with their commissary,
Right.
their central prep facility, which they bring with their inspection.
And, talking about Winnie's and stuff, I think we mentioned it also, is that they have a unique situation there because of their license and their food and all that kind of stuff. If they make too much change,
They're going to lose their non-conforming status.
yeah, so it's,
Yes.
they're a unique thing. So we're going to have to spend some time with them individually and seeing what the impact is going to be to them. Any other discussion on this item? This is first draft.
Just a draft.
First read. This is just a draft. Yeah, so are we ready for, at least give direction back to Sherry to bring us something back more formal, as in an ordinance?
Well,
What do you want to do?
now that we talked about that, I'm going to go work on the park,
Yeah.
food parks, and then bring that back to you, and then we'll get it all together.
Okay, all right,
I think that's smart.
Thank you.
sounds good. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. All right, we're gonna move on to item 10. Okay, item 10, discuss and consider recommendation from Traffic Commission to install a stop sign at the intersection, yes, and Cypress.
A citizen brought a request before the Traffic Commission stating that he had been involved in several near misses at this intersection. It is state law that you are required to stop, on a T intersection like that. Apparently, people are not wanting to follow that. He had requested this, and after talking with the commission and after talking with PD, there are no real accidents here per se, but there have been, PD does watch this pretty heavy. They do have some speeding going on over here. This is down there across from O.M. Roberts, down in that section down there. So they did ask that we bring this forward to council and go ahead and see about getting permission to go ahead and install a stop sign. They have also asked me to look into potentially putting a stop bar there as well, which I am still looking into that, so. But for right now, the first thing would be a stop sign.
Sorry, what did you say just before that, before the stop?
A stop bar, that's that big white
Painted white
bar.
strip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the general consensus was, there's a lot of stuff going on here at Plantation with the elementary school, maybe kids that walk home, because it is close enough for that. Everybody's favorite Plantation and 288 intersection, and just, the stop sign would allow for maybe increased enforcement. It's easier to tell whether a person stopped or didn't stop versus, well, do they have the right of way and do they yield properly and all that. So everyone was pretty much on the same page that this would be a good change. And I understand that cost-wise, signs aren't,
Minimal
gonna-
cost.
It's
gonna
not a
break
question of cost, but if you just look at the picture of the subdivision is if you're gonna put one there, why wouldn't you put one at the other 4 locations in that same neighborhood?
And I think the general consensus was that Cypress was more heavily used to get to Plantation from up above. That was more of like a through street where people coming down had their mind on Plantation, and you know, so they weren't. It just didn't.
It's more heavily traveled.
Yeah, and that people going, because even a lot, those 4 streets there on the upper right corner, they're going to come down and they're going to go one way or the other. And I think the general consensus was most people go to the left. So they're using that intersection more than, I need to get my
Pointer.
yeah, maybe they're using this more so than this to get, again, to the highway faster. So it's like if all of this comes out this way, and you know, again, people here aren't looking at the people on Jonquil turning left. They're focused down here a little bit more, you know, that everybody wasn't watching out for each other at this particular intersection more so than these. Because there's less through traffic here for the people coming onto that road.
We'll have fighting dots here, but these people have the right of way,
Right.
correct?
Yes,
These people by law have to stop,
yes.
correct? So I think if an officer was sitting here and they know that by law this person is supposed to stop, they can do the same thing as with a stop sign. They can see if the hood bounces and all that kind of stuff to see if they came to a complete stop. So, you know, yes, we can put a stop sign out there, but what I'm afraid of is the people that are running it today, about half of them know that they should be stopping and they're not stopping. You know, stop sign is going to stop, the stop sign is probably going to stop the person that's already stopping. And the person that's running that is, I don't know.
Yeah, but you can use the same issue. We just put a stop sign on Dogwood and the
Larkspur.
Larkspur. I mean, it's just the same thing. I think there's another place, Allwood and Banyan. That's another T intersection that has no stop sign that I believe ought to have one too. So because people are just not stopping as the person habitually parks on the street, which is fine, but you know, just narrowing the street down into one lane.
Yeah, and the only thing is my concern is that if we don't have clear definition of where we're gonna put a stop sign and where we're not gonna put a stop sign, is every T intersection in town could request a stop sign, and what's gonna keep us from saying, no, we're not gonna put a stop sign there?
I agree. You could put signs all over the city, and the people are gonna run them and the people aren't. I mean, but I hear what they're saying too.
So traffic is only heavy there, in the morning and in the evening?
Generally, it's heavier in those times, but as Councilman Broadus did mention, that is a cut through. Cypress does get a lot of that, trying to cut on through there, so.
Let me ask, it's like we have cops on the council and one in the audience. I don't know, I just maybe assumed that it would be easier to write a ticket at that location if there was a stop sign there than if there was not. Maybe that's not true, but I'd certainly be less inclined to fight it if I had gotten one. Because I'd be like, oh, even if I didn't stop, there's no stop sign there. And to tell someone, well, it's the law says anytime there's a T, yada, 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 is a lot different than
There's
a stop sign.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that might not be true day to day for you guys.
I'm gonna say that the prosecutor would really appreciate the stop sign rather than
Right.
explaining that law over and over again to people they don't know. There's so many not well-educated drivers out there.
So I don't know if it's helpful in that regard, but that was brought up that they thought it would be easier. I think
So right now, it's
Officer
just a
Cromie
yield
was-
sign.
there's
No.
nothing.
It's a nothing, sir.
I'm just gonna tell you, as a driver, I would be more inclined to stop with the stop sign.
Yeah, and
So if I was somebody that ran it daily, not knowing, and then all of a sudden there's a stop sign, I'm gonna start stopping.
And is that the law that you're supposed to stop there, or is it stop? Is it yield with an
You have to
option to
yield
stop?
to the
Because I
oncoming
don't
traffic.
actually know. It's
You have to yield to oncoming traffic.
So I don't have to rock my car back before I can keep going. If I pull up there,
If
glance
you
to the
drive
left
slow
or
enough,
right,
sir,
I
and make
can
sure
just
you time
ease.
it right, yeah, but you have to yield to the oncoming traffic.
Yielding, the yield part I get, but there's, a big difference between yielding and stopping. Sorry.
Serena's like, I didn't sign up for this.
Nope, I just brought this forward as the commission requested, and
Yeah.
it is for y'all to decide.
So if it's yield by default, I think a stop sign might be beneficial there. Of course, the mayor makes a great point. There are T stop. I mean, there's 3 other ones in this picture. 4 other ones. Well, yeah, four other ones in the picture, and we certainly can't put them everywhere. But
What's the difference in starting off with a yield sign then a stop sign? Are they all the same price? Are they all cost effective?
They're cost
There's
the
no
same.
cost difference as far as signs like that. It's just the different size of the blank, and we already probably have some of these blanks in stock.
One of the things my friend here to the side has helped me with is, one way we could address this is that because to address the question of is why we do a stop sign here and a yield at the other is because there is enough reason to escalate this just a little bit higher by saying that we would like to put a stop sign here because there is a known issue at this intersection. I'm just trying to get us to
Yeah.
some resolution here to try to get us away from the issue of, like I said, is how are you going to keep from having stop signs put everywhere? And
right, and this, this is a hot zone, right? Like we just made this no parking because of the school changes, and so people may find themselves over here trying to avoid this, and then this is just a total, pain for the traffic commission, right? So this is a hotbed of activity, and the person who came and spoke at the meeting, as I recall the conversation, was saying, yeah, they didn't speak, but they sent sort of a write-up about events that they had.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that they had personally witnessed here, and there were, more than one occasions that they felt was dangerous to life and limb, so to speak. So that, again, that's what took place at the meeting. I'm not advocating it, whatever. That was a discussion.
In honor of the previous tenant of this seat, I'd like to call a question.
There you go.
You've been waiting to use that.
They all leave.
all right, so we got to call the question.
She
So
was the first woman to ever call.
yeah,
All
that's
right.
That's right.
Make that in the.
So call the
records
question
there.
is to take an immediate vote on ending the discussion. So all in favor of ending discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so
All right.
we're going to end discussion, and so then I need some action on item 10.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to install a stop sign at the intersection of Jonquil and Cypress.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No, you can discuss the motion.
We can discuss the motion.
We can keep talking about it.
That's right. All right, anything else? Okay, all in favor of the
I
motion?
just have one point though.
Okay,
We used to install red flags on any new signs that we installed for public awareness. That's something new, and we quit doing that. So I'm just curious why.
red flag on.
Yeah.
I'm unaware of it,
That-
ever
That
using
we're
a
gonna
red
Yeah.
put
flag
one
on a
up,
sign.
or,
Yeah, on the sign
New one.
itself, that we used to install red flags for a while to let people know this is a change in traffic control, especially a sign, so people are not get caught by surprise.
I just hope if they're driving, they're just keeping up and watching the signs.
That's what we used to do. I'm just wondering why we quit doing that, so.
One other
Yes.
discussion with the chief. How many accidents have we had reported in that intersections, to your knowledge?
I have that, sir. We had already requested, when we went to Traffic Commission, I go through PD and I asked them to give me any history that they have on this area. So we found accidents in 2015 and 2016. There's 3 citations that were issued in 16, 19, and 20. And that's when I was saying staff reports that they also routinely work this area with speeding being the primary issue. They can't say that it was the issue of no stop sign there that caused these accidents that they did have, but that's the history that they have on it.
That's 2015 and 2016?
2015 and 2016,
That's
and
all the
then
reports that we done had of any incident?
of any accidents at this location, sir, and then there's some citations.
And we want to install a stop sign there?
That's what they had requested, sir.
All right. Any other questions? We don't have a motion? All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Any opposed? Aye. Nay. We have two. Denies? Okay. All right. And,
So we
opposed?
will
Bring back an ordinance.
bring back an ordinance.
and it will be, can be discussed then too again.
Okay. And we can do the flags also on the sign if it gets approved.
That's a good idea.
Okay. And so we'll move on to item 11. Item 11 is reject award bid number 2206 010 to Brazosport Cleaning Plus and award to Maintenance of Houston for the Lake Jackson Historical Museum at $95.16 a visit, Jasmine Hall at $43.92 per a visit, and the Lake Jackson Library at $149.53 a visit. Megan.
Yes, so at the last council meeting, we brought 5 facilities to y'all. 2 we were going to award to a Veterans Touch. Those have not changed. That contract has been executed. The other 3 we recommended awarding to Brazosport Cleaning Plus, which is what you allowed us to do. However, we found out after the meeting that the purchasing law we were leaning on, it allows us to give preferential treatment to businesses within city limits. We found out they are not headquartered in Lake Jackson. So the law we were leaning on does not apply here. So what staff did is there was no contract awarded to them, nothing was signed, nothing like that. So we're not in any trouble there. We weren't to that point yet, but we contacted the other 3 companies that were low bidders before Brazosport Cleaning Plus. And the one that you see before you, which is the Maintenance of Houston, they were the only ones interested in splitting the bid with these 3 facilities the way that they were, based on low bidders. So they have agreed to do those 3 facilities. They are lower than Brazosport Cleaning Plus. The other 2 we have emails from saying that they reject splitting the bid. So this is who we would move forward with based on purchasing law as written. So we are asking you to award these 3 facilities now to a different company. I'm very sorry about that, but now we know moving forward, so.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? If not, I'll take a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to reject the awarded bid 220610 to Brazosport Cleaning Plus and to award that instead to Maintenance of Houston as set forth in agenda item number 11.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Broadus and second by Councilman Baker. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, we're going to do construction updates.
While Sal's walking up here, I'm gonna knock mine out really quick. I only have one, and it is the weekly project status report in front of y'all. I did tell council last week that this is something I'm gonna be doing on a weekly basis, so I just wanted you to see last week's. I was gonna send it on Friday, but then I realized I get to see all your shining faces today, so, you'll see that I do have a thing for the weekend. This obviously would have been not this past weekend, the weekend before that, and then it goes in order from there, so you can just see their major highlights, so businesses or property owners that myself or Eddie talk to throughout the week. We are both out on site every single day usually, so if it's not, Eddie's out there physically every day, I drive by it at least once a day, as does Modesto and other staff, so. But this isn't anything major, it's just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at, who we talked to, any major concerns that came up during the week, and then what we're looking forward to the next week. So as you see where it says next week, that's obviously the week we're currently in. Like I said, I'm gonna send these out every Friday, so it'll be more relevant now. But this week, the braking on North Parking Place continues. The intersection and Circleway are wrapping up. We're waiting to see. They didn't technically make the brakes for PSI, which I'm sure Sal will talk about. But so we're figuring out how to tackle that. But they will open once that's done. So this, like I said, we're gonna do drone footage periodically as well, and I'll forward that to y'all, and it's available if anyone else wants to see it as well. So this is just so you guys are a little bit more in the loop with who we're talking to and how things are going. And if you want anything else more than this, please let me know, because this is just kind of my first stab at a little bit more communication, so.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Just a real quick question on, because one business is already asking. And North Parking Place, since we started breaking that out, does the contractor have it estimated when it would be opening back up? Either one of y'all.
Well, we're telling everyone at least 6 weeks.
Okay.
So, I would say they have at least 5 more weeks at least. And that is, I mean, they have run behind, so 6 weeks is conservative.
Right.
Yeah, well, they haven't really gotten behind in that particular stretch.
Not on that one, just others.
Correct, and some of the other ones, yes. They have promised that they were gonna be delivering those segments, even with just us, with us staying with a one crew type of operation, something in the neighborhood of 39 days. That's what they guesstimate. So, given that in consideration, we're talking about, 6 weeks, basically, what it amounts to. So this is what we're expecting there in this particular stretch that we're talking about there. They are progressing without any delays at this time. Not even the rain that we had delayed them. Today, they were actually able to put down at least half of the lime for the first portion there. Tomorrow, I believe they were going to bring in the second load, or the other half of the lime. It's a process where they go in there, apply the lime, and then mix that lime, and it won't be until 48 hours after that mix that they go out there and test that thing and make sure that everything, the lime has to react with the materials down there.
So
And
is tomorrow, will that complete the liming?
tomorrow we'll be completing the
That's
liming
on.
operation, correct, yes. And there's always that period where you are waiting for that mix to react, and then be able to test that.
No, we had received, Eddie and Megan had received a concern about washing off the lime trucks that closes the intersection off for about 5 minutes because they're trying to get all the mud and muck off the lime.
It was
tires.
a mud basically, off the tires from the lime because it really bogs down. They bring in a slurry mix. It's got water in there, so they also bog down in that mix there. So yes, every time they have to clean up before they go out there and make a mess downtown, especially the other areas that aren't at this time being impacted that much. So yes, it does create that problem.
I appreciate you telling us about the 2 days that you have to wait to see if the reaction occurred that you're looking for, because again, what, as well as I do, is what we have is people that look at it and say, well, for 2 days, nobody's done a thing out there. Well, it's
correct.
because of this.
Correct.
And so now we know. So if somebody does ask us a question, it says, this is the process.
Today was the first mix. At 2 days, they're going to come out and do the second mix there. At that time, the material should be friable enough to break down and then be able to be compact the way it's supposed to be compact. The other work that was produced today was there was a portion of the sidewalk at Romas, along with the ramp at the Oak Drive intersection there. They will be working on the other ramps leading down towards La Bodega, and along with the remaining portion of sidewalk. After that particular process is done, then they will move into the actual bricking of those ramps the way they're supposed to be doing, and. The testing, we took some cores on the portion at La Roma on the pavement itself to see whether that was the one that had originally indicated that it was not curing properly, the concrete itself. So we actually, went out and asked them to do some coring just to make sure the coring took place, but they won't be breaking those until tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll find out whether that we're hoping that concrete, those cores that they took out will break properly so that we can at least be able to, if we wanted to open up the through traffic through that particular portion there. Right now, we're hoping that we can get the sidewalks off of there also at the same time, so that there won't be any more construction conditions going through that little stretch there. The one we're also looking at is the portion of that same intersection of North Parking Place and Circle Way, because we already have that, the drive-through lane, except for tomorrow. The other two segments that were poured later, they just broke today for the first time, 7 days, and they didn't really quite make what we were expecting. We don't know what's happening now on the cement end of the concrete that they're selling us, and sometimes you start suspicioning them that when there's, say, shortage of cement, they usually try to make it up with fly ash. And that creates a problem on the proper breaks.
Right.
So.
We had a similar problem when we did Dixie Drive.
Correct, correct.
And that's something you can't find out until after you start making a break, correct?
Correct. And then you start putting questions up,
Right.
questioning the supplier.
There's no way to discern that on the poor day.
No, you can't.
You've made your it's a 7-day break's the first one. Do you have a second?
Yes, we
pull two?
have 7, 14, and 28.
I'm just trying to think of what happens if we get to your 14 and we're still not where you want to be.
Well, we can't put traffic until it happens. That's a problem. That's what the problems that it creates.
Right.
And we had been getting great concrete breaks, at 7 days. We were making what we were calling, we can't say that, that when you get down to the point where your 28-day break doesn't break, then at that point in time, you make a decision and you either tell the contractor, break the concrete out and redo it again, which is another delay, which you don't want to create.
Right.
So those are the problems that come up with the concrete pavement. We're hoping that we don't get to that point. I mean, we're hoping that at least we can break at 14 and go with that thing. In this particular case, now we're taking an extra core there so that we can speed up the process if we can. And we just have to see. As far as we're getting all the different, I think we have already given the MC Square the authorization to go out there and take the sign for the old Lake Theater sign off of there. And they're giving us a prize. And we are just proceeding with that thing with a cost that they gave us, which is about $11,000.
The Lake Theater sign, that we discussed that with the owner of the building, they were agreeable.
They were agreeable to do
That
that.
sign sits on city property.
Yes, and we're going to remove the sign, and we're also going to remove half, or at least 1 foot below natural ground of the concrete pavement that's there, the concrete.
And then our public
portion.
art will come back.
Our public art will go up in the same general location there. So that takes care of our downtown report, and we made our comments to the contractor to proceed with the schedule, with a 1 crew schedule that we all.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that a little bit. We had asked the contractor how they would proceed if they had a 2 crew schedule and if that could speed up. But when they gave us that proposal, we looked at it, the team looked at it, and just felt that it would be just too cumbersome on the businesses. It would be just tearing up another area. It would speed up the process and get them probably back on their timeline in December. But I think we would just open up too many areas and it'd be just too,
Well, really, the big issue was, I told them, the promise I made to the businesses was that North Parking Place and Circle Way, anywhere with retail, heavy retail, would not be impacted during the holiday season. And so that primarily is Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we had told the contractors that they were agreeable to it. And I gave them time to revise their schedule, but the one that they sent us for Tuesdays was them working on North Parking Place during Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we gave them time. I told them, no, give us a revised schedule if you want to do the two-person cruise. And they could not figure out a way to make two-person cruise work where they weren't going to impact North Parking Place during Christmas. And so we said absolutely not.
I think and what they did tell us though, that most likely is they're continuing now, and as it's outlined in the bid how to do it, it's probably an April timeline for them to finish, which goes back to when we had our original public hearings with the businesses before we went out for bid. We had estimated that it was a 18-month project, and that's exactly how it's falling. It's going to be an 18-month project.
Correct, and,
What
with
about
that,
after the holidays?
correct.
We are, we have talked about that. Sal did ask them that in his conversation with him, that we probably could look at ask for
A two-man crew
two-man crew
operation,
after
at
the
that point
holidays.
there.
But we haven't had a response yet.
No, in the meantime, I also requested that on the, for them to make a revised schedule based on the one crew with the idea, of their anticipated ending date of April there, so that we know exactly what that would entail.
And have we had any input from the businesses? Asking them, does everybody just want to suck it up, let's get this done, or do we want to?
No,
No,
No.
no.
When we looked at it, it was just, again, based on our experience, even if some said yes, I think it would wreak turmoil.
Yes, it would.
On that note, the next meeting is on the 25th, next Thursday. So if anyone would like to come, we have our next downtown business update meeting. It's at 2 o'clock here. So, or my 4-week meetings that we're doing.
And we'll let them know the same thing, the same information that we gave you tonight.
Okay.
And from this downtown, I'll go to the Canopy Status. We all know, we've seen the product out there. The only thing that's lagging on that one, which we still haven't paid, we still haven't made the final payment, even though final payment has been requested. Our architect has not yet given approval on that one, I guess primarily because the windstorm final hasn't been performed. I don't know why it hasn't been performed. That's one question that has gone out to the not the contractor, but to the architect for him to hurry up that so that we can pay up and complete that particular project and not have it just hanging there. We'll go to the lift station. The lift station one. Do you have any update on that? Other than having a request or a
Connie
proposal?
was out, and the only thing that I've seen so far is an additional email today where they wanted to get together and talk about everything, but Deb was out today, so we'll try to get that done tomorrow.
Okay, yes, I saw that email go by. On the cured in place, not a cured in place anymore, but for the 60-inch, I'm finishing up this new option with just a regular standard, not regular standard, but our conventional removal and replacement of a 60-inch RCP. I'm going to be making that presentation to the TxDOT since we need to have their permission to be able to do this type of work there, and then I will, depending on their response, then I will put it out for bid and start the process there.
So that's open earth.
Open earth, open channel, and then replacement of that pipe in there. So it's going to be quite, people are going to notice that, and there's going to be a lot of equipment movement in that right away. So, but that's about the only option that I've got left. I've tried 3 different options, and none of them have had any success of gathering any interest. We also have the Pin Oak. We have had 2 meetings. Tomorrow we have a 3rd meeting. We have sort of pulled out, sort of cleaned up on the information that was given us by the contract by the designer and their field surveys. So now we're looking for what it is that we're going to need, whether or not we're going to have some easements, drainage easements not given to us, but allowed by some of the property owners in order to provide the actual drainage ways that we need. That is an old neighborhood that was built without any type of drainage. So now we're going to have to make our own, just like we did over there at the Forest Oaks, at the Forest Drive area that Thelson worked on. But I think it's coming into shape, and we will try to move this on forward and try to get it out sometime before the change of the fiscal year.
All right.
Is
that it?
And the Headworks, I believe, the Headworks project. There was some that we had met with the design engineer. They finally agreed on what it is that needs to be done in order to bypass the sanitary sewer that the Headwork receives in order for us to be able to isolate that and really create provide the project to proceed on that one. There, we finally arrived at an agreement of what it needs to be. It's going to be an expensive one. Just the bypass itself, we're talking about somewhere in the order of $200,000. So you need to expect that in the future. Tax mixer is now in the process of being. We're going to be starting. Given an authorization for work startup, and also the fact that and give them a pre-construction meeting for that. That's it.
Well, I'll be excited when the tank water mixing system improvement goes in place, because the expectation is that we'll have better water quality. So,
That's the expectation.
yeah, that's it.
Sir.
We kind of dodged the bullet. That storm went in down south. You think we'd kind of held up a little bit if it came in here with all the construction we got going on?
How do I say? The last time we were working downtown, we had one of those storms
Yes,
there, and it
yes.
created a problem there. Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you. Robin, half cent real quick.
Yes, I can be really quick. Pecan Park Playground, we've started removing it. It is supposed to be installed on September the 26th. And I am almost done with the plans for the Timber Creek Playground. I'm still finalizing a few things, so I'm hoping maybe 1st of October we can get that in. And lastly, our carpet flooring has been going in at the rec center. The last thing they have to do, it looks really good. The Gomez Flooring has done a great job. We have to do the weight room. We'll be closed down all next week in the weight room, so people have to go work out outside because we've got to get all the equipment out. So, any volunteers? No, I'm just joking. But yes, so that'll be done. So it looks really good. So if you get a chance, come by and see too. They did a really great job. So that's it.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, we'll move on to items of community interest, and we'll start with John.
No.
Nothing? Mr. Broadus, anything?
Can't think of nothing. No.
Rhonda?
Just remind everybody, Wednesday is back to school.
Yeah, it is.
Lots
Yeah.
of kids everywhere.
Watch out
Traffic.
for school zones.
School zones. That's right.
School zone lights do come on tomorrow
Okay.
for last testing.
There are quite a few school zone lights on over by Brandon on that way.
Today?
Well, I was driving by there. I was like,
Were they blinking or were they just?
no, they weren't on. They were just
on
like
fire.
everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're on both sides of Anchusa, I guess, because of that little jog. But whatever the law requires, but it's
Can't make
it's
everybody
overwhelming.
happy.
I'm
Can't
telling
make
you
everybody
what.
happy.
If you miss those, you got serious eye problems.
Vinay?
Just one item, just curious when they're gonna fix that parking lot next to going into Suggs Field by old Boggs Nursery. That's gotten pretty bad. Pretty big potholes and,
Are you going into Suggs Park? I have a.
from Willow.
Yes, off Willow. Yes, I do have a call into the contractor. We had gotten a quote, but we had, because of the how we have to do things. So I do have another contractor. I am behind on that, but that is one of the ones on my list that I'm waiting for a bid. So yes, sir, I am definitely all of those will be done before, any of the leagues or something starts with that too. And I've already talked to Babe Ruth about that
All
too.
right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? All right, just a couple of things real quick is, if you haven't been,
Chase.
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna take
I
it
forgot I was
personal.
going that, I forgot I was going that way. I thought I was gonna, I'm sorry.
Dino Day, I took the little one and it was absolutely awesome. Awesome. I got an email, shook hands with Dinosaur George, and while I was shaking his hand, the 1,000th person walked in. So they emailed me and said we had a total of 1,102 visitors. We raised $1,474 in monetary donations. 534 of that was from the community, 940 was from Dinosaur George. And Ms. Wanda says there were so many food donations, I filled the back of my Honda Odyssey. We thank City Council very much for the use of the Civic Center. We appreciate it. It's awesome.
Great.
Hey, one more thing.
I really wanted to go to that.
Company, city picnic on Wednesday.
There you
Yep.
go.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Anything else, Chase?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Again, I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Just, yeah, real quick, if you haven't been in the downtown area late at night, staff was able to put in 3 solar light systems downtown, which helps out a lot. And I appreciate that. I know it took a lot of effort to find those pieces of equipment. And then I did notice, because it's a piece of property we've looked at in the past, is I noticed that the filling station by Suggs Field, they were removing the tanks this last week. So, I don't know what's happening there, but we talked at one time that might be a possibility of buying that piece of property if it made sense, but it looks like they removed the tanks. So that answers the questions if the tanks were ever removed.
Yeah, okay.
All right, that's all I got. Staff got anything as far as community interest?
Sal, do you have anything?
We're putting another 3 lights downtown, the temporary lights we talked about.
Right. Yeah. So what he's saying is they're adding more lighting downtown to temporary lights because a lot of the main lighting is out of service right now. And so it makes it a safety issue. All right, so we're going to go into executive session at 8:41 under